All right, it's Monday. Here's this week's packet, and it is easier than last week, if you ask me. A couple of big concepts last week in math. This one's going to be like a vacation for you. There's one kind of new skill to teach you, but other than that, it's going to be nice and easy. So we'll flip into this math page, and I won't even grab my journal yet because it's got some decent pictures as to what's happening up here. All we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding and subtracting mixed numbers for this whole packet, for these 3 different lessons in math here. And so in this case, they've drawn us the pictures of 3 1/4. There's 1, 2, 3 full ones and 1/4, and they've drawn the 2 1/4, 1, 2, and 1/4. Now, we're all capable of adding up how many full ones there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 full ones. And then how many fourths will be left over? 1, 2, 2 fourths. So no problem, right? 5 and 2 fourths. In fact, if I was to stack that up, I'll even just do it up in the margin. 3 1/4 plus 2 1/4. This is how you're going to see it in the book. I'm just going to add it up like I normally would any other adding problem. I'm going to start over here with this stuff. 1/4 and 1/4 I know makes 2 fourths. And 3 plus 2 equals 5. So just like we got from counting up the circles, it works the same way. I can stack it up and add it. Now, I guess there's one extra step. When we get down to a problem like this, I can stack them up and add them, no problem. 4/5 plus 3/5, I'll do 4 plus 3, that's 7. So I get 7/5. And then over here, I'll get a 3 plus a 4 is a big 7. So life is good. I've done everything I need to do, except what I've got here is that improper fraction, right? It's the fraction with the bigger number on top. So while this is technically, it's correct, because it just says find the sum or the difference. It doesn't say to convert. We know that it'll have us converting here in no time. So I want to know how many chunks of 5 I can pull out of 7. That gives me 1, right? 1 full one. And it will leave me, if I pulled 5 out of there, it would leave me with 2. So I'm getting 1 full one that I'll add to this 7. So this is the same thing as 8 big ones and 2/5. See how that worked? I just converted my 7/5 into 1 2/5, right? 1 chunk of 5 came out and 2/5 were left over. So that gives me 8 2/5. Other than that, there's not much to worry about. On these pages, especially on this first page, they're taking it easy on us on subtracting. There's not going to be any regrouping for us to do or borrowing. We will get that in our 3rd page. So in this case, it's just basic 2/3. Take away 1/3 gets me 1/3. And 7, take away 3 gets me 4. And there's nothing else to do on that one. And you'll see all the subtraction ones on this first page and a half. They've taken it easy. 3/4 take away 1/4, right? 3/6 take away 1/6. 9/10 take away 7/10. No regrouping to do. But these adding ones, they're going to add them up, and you might have to do a little bit of this move here. But for the most part, it's just adding up. Okay, I'll zoom back out. We'll take a look at the 2nd page there. More of the same. And it says, find the sum. Write the sum as a mixed number so the fractional part is less than 1. This is what I was telling you they were going to have us do on this page here. They're not going to accept our improper fractions anymore. So I'll jump to this guy. This is what I just showed you in the last page too. I'm going to start by just adding them up. 2/3 plus 2/3 is going to get me 4/3. And 2 plus 3 gets me a big 5. So 5 4/3. And now they want us to get rid of this thing like we did on that first page. So I think a lot of the times here it's going to be 1 and something. It's going to be pretty close. So how many 3's can I pull out of a 4? Well, I can pull 1 big 3 out, right? And so if I pulled a 3 out of there, that would leave me with 1 left. So I get 1/3 left over. And the big one that I pulled out added on to this 5, and I end up with 6. All right, I'll do one more. Let's try this one. let's do 4/5 plus 4/5 is going to get me 8/5, no problem. And 7 and 6 is going to get me a big 13. All right. You can also look at it this way. Let's say I just break these apart for a second and just worry about the 8/5 and convert him. Okay, so I've got my 13 plus, and then I figure out what this is going to be. How many 5s can I pull out of 8? I can pull one big 5 out of 8, one chunk of 5, and if I subtract 5 from there, I'm going to end up with 3, right? So that leaves me with 3/5. So my 8/5 is the same thing as 1 3/5. It's been converted like we did last week. So now I just have 13 plus 1 3/5. So 13 plus 1 3/5 gets you 14 3/5. So however you want to look at that, you're probably going to be a lot of these ones taking 1 and bringing it over to the big number and having a small fraction of it left. So work on that. I'll back up here. Looks like this one's not going to quite make it, right? 5 and 3 is just going to be 8. Same thing here. This is going to be more subtracting, and they are still taking it easy on you. 2 minus 1, 4 minus 3, 3 minus 1. So no regrouping to do yet. And I say yet because it is coming. In fact, it is here. All right, so now they have, for the example for this, for lesson 59 up here, they've got this problem, and they're using this kind of a bar graph to show you. I want to use the pie pieces. So I'm going to get my journal back out, and I'm going to open up to the page we were on last time that had fractions greater than 1, draw myself a line, and zoom out slightly, okay? And so the problem in the book was 3 1/3 minus 2 2/3. All right, so I'm going to draw 3 1/3. I'm going to draw my circles. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to actually need another one, right, to make a third. So these are like the little peace signs, sort of. And so for 3 1/3, I need to fill in 3 of them completely. One, 2, 3, and then 1/3. So that's 3 1/3 minus 2 2/3, I believe. Yep, minus 2 2/3. So I'm taking away 2 2/3. So I need to draw 1, 2, and 3 of them because I need 2 full ones and 2/3 of this one. All right, so 2 full ones, and then 2/3 of this one. So we obviously have enough over here. 1, 2, 3, and 1/3 is bigger than 1, 2, and 2/3. But to take this away, you're going to see the troubles in a second. So if I'm going to take away, let's say I start with the 2, take away 2 from here. So this one's gone, and this one's gone. That leaves me with 1 1/3. Now I need to take away 2/3. So I take away this one, and then I still need one more to take away. So let's say I just erase out of there. So now I've taken him, and I've taken him. That's my 2/3. And this is my 2. Leaving me with 1 2/3 left over. So 3 1/3, take away 2 2/3, ends up with me only having 2/3 left. And let me show you how that looks, how this actually works on the other page, okay? You're going to get them stacked up like this. All right? So if I stacked up this very same problem we just did, if I did 3 1/3 minus 2 2/3, all right? I'll make this 3 a little bit better for you. So here is the secret weapon. Are you ready? If we were going to borrow in a normal math problem, right? If I was going to take, let's say I had, I'll just put it up here, if I had 17 minus 8, if I was going to borrow or regroup, I would cross out this, make him into a 0, or take 1 away from him, and then add 10 to this. So I would make this a 17, or some people cross it out, put the whole 7 up there, right? Now, down here it doesn't work that way. If I cross out the 3 and make him into a 2, and then put a 1 here, that has broken math law. 11/3. We've just put a lot in there, because I can get like 3 full 1s out of there, right? Because 3 times 3 is 9. So you can't just add a 1 to that. So what you want to do is I'm taking 1 away from here, 1 full 1, and by that I mean something like this. I'm taking 1 of these, 1 chunk of 3 out of 3. I'm taking 1 out of there and I'm bringing it over here. And so what I'm actually doing is I'm taking that and not adding just a 1, but I'm adding a 3 over 3 to it. I'm adding 1 whole to it, which is in this case 3 over 3. So 1/3 plus 3/3 just gets me 4/3. So if you haven't seen the trick yet, here's how it's going to look. I'm going to cross this out, drop him by 1, he becomes a 2. Then all I have to do is take the bottom number and add it to the top number. Remember we had a 1/3, I added 3 to it, I have a 4/3. So easy now. 4 take away 2 gets me 2/3. 2 take away 2 gets me nothing. And check it out, that's where he was before, and that's what our picture up top showed. All right, so let me show you that trick on the worksheet. I showed you how it works and why it works, and now if you just remember what to do next, you should be fine. So here is, let's say, number 3. It's about to get real easy on you. 3/5 take away 4/5, no can do. All right, I've got to borrow. 3 becomes a 2. And remember, I can't just put a 1 in front of this. What I have to do is add the bottom number to the top number. 5 plus 3 gets me 8. Oh, this is going to be kind of cool. Let's change it to an 8. Easy. Now it's going to be no problem. 8 take away 4 is 4/5. 2 take away 2 is nothing. I'll slide it over. I'll show you on this one. 1 take away 11, can't do it. Borrow from here, he becomes a 2. I can't just add a 1. I have to add the bottom number of that fraction. 12 plus 1 gets me 13, so I'll make this into a 13. And now I can just subtract. 13 take away 11, 2/12. See that? So the trick is that once you have the trick, this becomes real easy. Understanding how the trick works, that's what we just put in our workbook. But overall, it shouldn't be that big of a deal for this one. Okay, I'll let you guys do that. Plus, there's some IXL skills you can practice that on. And there's more of the same on this. But again, we're not really scared of that now because even if you have to borrow, it's really no big deal. Cross it out, add the bottom to the top, and then do your basic subtraction. Okay, that's it for the math this week. Like I said, oh, actually, I take it back. I take it back. There's one more page of math this week. And it looks intimidating, but really not that bad. All right. They'll do this whole section up top here talking about how to use commutative property, which is, we know about that. Doesn't matter which direction you add stuff or multiply stuff, the answer is always the same. 6 plus 3 is the same as 3 plus 6. Okay, or in this case, 3 plus 6 plus 4 is the same as 3 plus 6 plus 4. Right? I can move it around. Commutative property. It can commute. It can move around. And it works for adding, and it works for multiplying. And after that, with subtraction and division, there is no commutative property. But for adding and multiplying, it doesn't matter which order you do them in. All right. So notice they're going to use a different phrase on this directions. It says, using the properties and mental math to find the sum. Okay. So we could stack all of these up and add them, and we should be just fine, right? We know how to do this from the first page. If I really wanted to, I'm going to cruise over to this one because I've got this space here to show you what it would look like. 7 3/4 plus 5 plus 3 1/4. And I can add all those up. 3/4, 1/4 is 4/4. And 5 and 3 is 8, plus 7 is 15. So 15 and 4/4, remember 4 over 4 means 1, right? So I could just make this into a straight up 16. So my answer here would be 16. So I could stack them up and add them, that's fine, but they say mental math. So what they've done for you is you can see they're all going to be the same number on the bottom, so none of that, common denominator stuff. What they're going to tell you is that forget these parentheses for now, because it doesn't really mean anything if you're just adding, okay? What you want to do is look at the fractions real quick and see if any of the two of them can add up to 1. In other words, in this case, are there any two numbers up on the top that would make 5? And so I've got I think if I do the 1/5 plus the 4/5, that gives me 5/5, right? So what I can do is I can just, they're saying using mental math, I can just kind of cross these ones out and say, okay, now I got a plus 1 on here. So now I've got 3 plus 1 2/5 plus 4 plus 1. So now I can kind of just do 3 plus 4 plus 1 plus 1. Let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 2/5. I'll do one more, but once you get the hang of this, I think it's going to be, again, pretty easy, especially compared to last week. So I'm looking at tenths here. Are there any two of these fractions I can add together that give me 10 tenths? I'm thinking this 3/10 and this 7/10. So if I can just get those guys out of the mix and realize I've got another 1 now. I'm cashing those in. So now I've got a 5 and a 6 and a 1 and then a 1 4/10. And I just add them up. 5 plus 1 is 6 and 6 is 12 and 1 more is 13 plus this 4/10. So when they say use mental math, they're kind of like we do sometimes when we're looking for groups of 10. So see if you can combine, or if it doesn't make much sense and it's driving you crazy, you can totally stack them up and add them like we did over here. All right. So those are our mixed numbers this week. Same on this page, and they were pretty nice to you. Even this one here, we can see 7/10 and 2/10 and 1/10. All three of those together will get you 10 tenths, right? 7, 8, 9, 10. So you're going to cross all those, and it gives you one more. So this shouldn't take too long. All right. Here's the math game for the week. Here's an Earth's Layers sleuth reading piece. I'll give you help on these two lesson 1 packets here. All right, so we have some Greek and Latin prefixes. In other words, prefix means goes before, and so we have trans and tele. All right, so in this case, I'm going to just put a little note up here so we know which one's which. So trans means across or kind of far away. All right, and then for tele, that one means pretty similar. Far off or distant. So I'm gonna highlight one. Let's say I'll highlight the trans. So television, telegraph, translucent. Light can go across it. Transcend, transcript, teleprompter, transform. Form means the shape, so you can kind of go across the different forms. Transaction, transport. Port means to move. Telescope, translate, and transcribe. So then you'll match up these down below. And again, you can use dictionaries, you can use your phones, you can use tablets, you can use the internet, whatever you need to use to do these, that's great. Okay, and the last page, Greek prefixes. And prefix, again, this goes before a root word, and so we have amphi and anti. So amphi, A-M-P-H-I, amphi means both sides. Or around. And then anti means against or the opposite. Kind of like when we had the im and in, kind of just, it means not, right? So this means the opposite of. So if we have amphi, then we've got probably the most common one is amphibious, and that's the first one, meaning it can do both land and sea, right? There's anticipating, antibiotic, amphibian, anti-freeze, meaning it's the opposite of freezing, anti-theft means the opposite of theft, right? Antidote, antibodies, this has been in the news lately, right? Antivirus, boy, we could use some of that. Antipathy, antithesis, or antithesis, sorry, and amphitheater. This is a theater that goes all the way around you. It's one of those round ones. And again, write the word, or write the list word that best completes each sentence. So you've done this the past couple weeks. So excellent. That's all I got for you this week. This is a way shorter video than last week. If you have any questions, please email me, and we can get the camera out. We can zoom and get this stuff figured out. So have a good week.